lunch, but I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about for a bit, and while I figure I might as well say it while I'm still thinking about it. It's still on my mind. So I think it's very interesting that so when I was growing up, or at least when I was a teenager, the most what we call boomers now, were complaining about the millennials, which was my generation. I was the last, kind of like I'm the last part of the millennials, born mid '90s. And then as it moved on, they still kept on using the term millennial to complain about young people. But like the term millennial, like I'm 30, dude. The term millennial doesn't, or like that doesn't mean the youngest generation anymore. Even though people seem to, older people I've noticed kind of seem to forget that we're a completely different age group now. And so, but now the same thing that was said about millennials has been moved on to Gen Z. And if you look, there's videos of it like throughout history. People have been like, oh, the young are just, they don't appreciate things. And, we back in my day, we had respect for our elders and we cared about the environment and all that type of stuff. But the thing is, it has nothing to do with the fucking generations. It has nothing to do with the boomers. It has nothing to do with the millennials. It has nothing to do with the Gen Xers. Everybody thinks about themselves as being so cool and like they were the best generation. It's like, no, you were just as cringy as a teenager as teenagers are cringy to adults now. It has nothing to do with when you were born. It has to do with how old are you? How mature are you? There's a lot of people that I know that are from an older generation and have the maturity of a 12-year-old. And I'm not talking about like they laugh at fart jokes. I mean like emotional maturity. They can't regulate their own emotions. They blame everybody else for anything that happens in their life that's negative. They can never like introspect and take things like, oh, maybe it was me that was fucking up. Maybe it's my fault. But then again, there's still outliers between different generations. But it has nothing to do with, oh, this person was born in the 90s, therefore they have a specific set of, this is what they're like. No, it has to do with age groups. Children act like children. Teenagers act like teenagers. Young adults act like young adults. Shit hasn't changed for thousands of years. It's not about when you were born. It's about how old are you right now. I am nothing like what I was when I was a teenager. I am not, hopefully I'm not as cringy, but at the same time, it's very funny that I hear my parents complain about millennials. It's like, Pop, I'm 30. Your eldest is like almost 50 now. This has nothing to do with millennials. It has to do with the fact that there is a huge disparity between the older generation or the old people and young people. No matter what time it is, it's the difference between the age groups that's the thing. Young people see how ineffectual the old people have been. And then the old people think of the new people as like, oh, are the young people as being inexperienced? Yes, both things are true. That's the problem, is that the generation gap has nothing to do with the generations. It has to do with the inability of people to understand that humans change as they get older. When you're young, you act a certain way. And you know what? In 100 years, young people will still act that certain way because it has to do with human development. It has nothing to do with, oh, well, it's because you kids listen to that music and you play your video games. No. Fucking, you know what boomers were doing? They were wasting their time playing pinball, reading comic books. They still wasted just as much time doing what they call useless stuff as what they say that millennials did or do. Because it's just, it frustrates me with how stupid young and old people are. Well, I mean, actually, just people in general. We are relatively dumb. And that means we're just oblivious to what's actually happening. But it's also funny that one generation think it's the double standard kind of effect. what was cool for them when they were younger is still cool for them. They were never cringe. They were just part of their generation. They were just hippies. They were just cool. But now these new young folk, they're not cool like we used to be. They're different. They're annoying. No, you were just as annoying as a teenager to older people around you as the people that annoy you now. It's, I don't know. I find it hilarious and sad of how unaware most of us are about these things. Because it's like, yeah, you see this kid maybe wasting their life playing video games. What are you doing that's any different? You're sitting there watching the news for hours on end. You're wasting your time. You're not putting in any effort to change anything. Watching the news does nothing. It really does nothing except for pay the people that make the news. So it's very hilarious how older people criticize younger people and how younger people criticize older people, because both are ineffectual. Both are wasting their time doing dumb shit. Both have their problems. But we grow out of those. We fucking grow out of it. You know, we don't play with Legos our entire life. Maybe sometimes we do because they're fun to play with. But people change. Our brains develop over time. People don't just turn 13 and then all of a sudden, hey, after I'm a teenager, I'm grown up now. My brain is always going to be the same. I'm always going to have the same views throughout my entire life. No, that's stupid. If you have the same views throughout your entire life, that means you didn't grow. That means you haven't changed. You haven't learned anything. So that's something I've noticed between the discussion of boomers versus Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and vice versa. The criticisms mean nothing because it's not a criticism of a generation. You're criticizing someone at a certain point of their development. They're going to change in like a year. My parents used to be super liberal. They're super conservative now. That's because when you get older, your brain fucking changes. And you start having different types of views because now your brain, which gives you consciousness, which makes you aware of certain things, changes how it perceives the world. Yeah, old people say we use our phones too much, but the studies use, how much they use their phones. Yeah, exactly, Starry Shark. Old people are on their phones just as fucking much as young people, just in a different way. They're both just as cringy. It's just, I keep on saying it's frustrating and hilarious because it is. It's absurd. It's fucking absurd that people in their 60s haven't fucking learned that it has nothing to do with the fact that, like, they think, oh, I'm part of the greatest generation. My generation did cool stuff. Look at the accomplishments of me. You didn't do shit, first of all. Most of the time, when I've talked to these people, they didn't really actually do anything that contributed to the greatness of their generation. It's random people within their generation that did these things. But they claim it as though they did it because it was done at a time that they were alive. Starry Shark, our generation is way busier and under more stress than their generation. To a degree, yeah. We have different stressors. That's the thing. It's not that we have more or less. It's that now things are different. And you can't use the same mode of being in an old world in the new world. I can't play a Super Nintendo game. I can't stick in a cartridge into the Switch. You know, that's not how it fucking works. Even Jesus talks about this. 2,000 years ago, this dude already had figured it out, and he said it to everybody, and there's billions of Christians, but no one seems to get it. When you put in new wine into old wineskins and they burst or whatever that bullshit, saying he had. But what he's saying is that you can't force an old model onto a new time. That's what the problem with a lot of these people that are like, I want to get back to the ancient ways. The ancient ways were ancient because fucking 2,000 years ago they worked. They don't work now. They don't work now because people learned, we developed. We're no longer subsistence farmers. We don't live in villages anymore. We live in cities. We have to have a new way of being. And that's the problem with conservatism, because there is no such thing as conservatism. There's only regressionism. because that's what conservatives want. They want to regress to an older time that was better, when actually it was never better. It was just good for the moment. That's all we have, is what works for the moment. But anyways, I digress. I gotta get going. I gotta leave my lunch. But yeah, also old people think respect means being obedient. Yes, Starry Shark. I have a whole fucking video on what respect is and how people use it as a way to coerce people into obedience rather than it being a thing about admiration. Admiration should be earned. Admiration is something that someone, gets by like, oh my God, look how good that person is. It's not something you can force. You have to admire me or else. That's not how this fucking works. Anyways, yeah, I have a bunch of rants about a lot of stuff on here. I gotta peace out now. I'll catch you later. Have a great day, Starry Shark. Thanks for talking with me.